Welcome to Dovetail, the Hartford International University podcast where healing, inspiration, and understanding guide every conversation. I'm Steve Havira, Chief Creative Officer at HIU and your host. On Dovetail, we amplify voices from across the HIU community and beyond, including students, educators, thought leaders, and innovators who are shaping a better world. Each episode dives into compelling stories and bold ideas about peace building, social change, and bridging divides. Whether you're here to gain insight, spark inspiration, or connect with fresh perspectives, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy this episode of Dovetail, brought to you by Hartford International University. Today on Dovetail, we're honored to welcome Dr. Joel N. Lohr, a visionary leader, scholar, and former president of Hartford International University for Religion and Peace. During his tenure, Dr. Lohr helped reshape the institution with a bold commitment to interreligious understanding, social justice, and global impact. A theologian by training and bridge builder by nature, his leadership left an enduring legacy, not just at HIU, but in the lives of countless students, faculty, and partners around the world. Dr. Lohr joins us today to reflect on his journey, the challenges and breakthroughs of leading in complex times, and what it really means to build peace in today's world. Welcome, President Lohr. Thank you for being here on Dovetail, our HIU podcast. It's a new venture. You have been a champion of it, and we're happy that you're here as a guest. How are you?
Doing very well. It's good to be here, Steve. Thanks for putting this together. I love the idea of Dovetail.
So at the time of this recording, you have about 2 weeks left of your tenure here as the 11th president of HIU. I think just generally, how are you doing? What is your feeling? How are you at this stage? Like I said, there's 2 weeks to go, but then, in 2 weeks, you're going to look back and it's going to be something of a chapter in your story.
Yeah. It's getting increasingly difficult not to feel like I don't know, when people talk about legacy and things, I'm maybe for the first time the last few weeks actually starting to see that or think about that a bit more. I've avoided thinking about that, but as you get right down to the end of the last few weeks, it's hard not to. I'm doing well. I'm doing really well overall. I'm getting a little more rest or I'm realizing people are now starting to save their questions for the next president, which is good and right and as it should be. And that's taken a little bit of the pressure off, but I don't know if I would not want to accept the title workaholic, but I work a lot. And so it's nice to be pulling back a little from that. But on the other hand, I'm still working a lot right now just to finish up things, some foundation work with donors and making sure everything's in place for the new president, making straight the path for the new president has been on my mind nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot to do leading up to handing the baton to somebody else. In the past few weeks, we've had the opportunity to honor you in a few different ways. We had a ceremony to honor you. I think a really special celebration that included faculty, staff, friends, family. Everybody was there under the white tent right before graduation. Yeah. It was a chance to honor you, your legacy, as you say. And I think people view the president here in a lot of different ways, depending on what your role here is. Your identity is shaped in one way by the students, by the faculty, by the staff. What was it like for all of them to come together in that moment and for you to be on stage and kind of address, I don't know if it was your final address, but it was certainly, it had a finality to it, I think. I think your final thoughts. What was it like for you to just have all those people in one space and feel the support for you?
Yeah, it felt absolutely humbling, amazing, joyful, all those words. I did use the word legacy earlier, but I want to be really clear. It's not a word I like or I'm comfortable with. I, like a lot of things in my life and in my work, I feel like I've been more interested in the actual work than the titles, whether it's about sort of these catchphrases today, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, or and even the word legacy, those words aren't actually that important to me. What is important to me is what stands behind them. And I haven't worked for a legacy. I haven't thought about legacy. When it was pitched to me to start talking about the Lohr legacy and a Lohr legacy campaign, as you know, I ultimately acquiesced, but only because I was willing to look at the word legacy as sort of a passing over of things. I really don't. I'm not comfortable with it. Could just be my personality, but I'm not comfortable with the focus on me. I really want my work here and what we've achieved together as people to be to stand for itself. And so if that's summed up in the word legacy, I guess I'll use the word, or I'm willing to allow the word to be used, or, I won't fight it too much, but it's really the work that we've done. And that's been exciting. But that moment of having my family come together, only my wife and daughter were able to make it, and the rest of my family's in Canada. But for my wife and daughter to be there, I think the most, Steve, you introduced the video that you made. And then as soon as I heard my wife's voice in that video, if you get a chance, anyone listening to watch the video, please do. But when I heard my wife's voice in that video, not only because I'm so close to her and I love her so dearly, but just she knows what I've put into all this. And to hear her kind of explain to others the real kind of Joel Lohr behind all of this in a way that is true to who I am and true to everything I believe in, that really touched me. And I just kind of got teary. And it was hard to watch the rest. And then for my daughter to play the song that she played,
it's beautiful.
It was so touching. Of course, everyone else speaking, to see, I think it was probably, 100, 150 people.
Yeah, it was a very healthy crowd. Yeah.
It was a good crowd.
Yeah.
To come together under a tent and to be there to celebrate what we've done over 7 years. It's hard to think of a more, more touching moment. It was kind of a pinnacle to my life and my career.
Very poignant. Yeah. Because this project, the video that you mentioned here, it was in the works for quite some time. And
which I knew nothing about.
I know. I did. It was pretty good, right?
Do you remember me saying for the slideshow,
a couple
slides,
a little better than slideshow, right? So, one of the things, because we're a small institution, we're a small group here, especially the communications department, we're always having to go out and would you mind doing this? Would you mind sitting down with us? And we're always it's outward. And when I mentioned this was for you, and I was texting this person, that person, what do you need? How much time do you need? So it was really, and I think that really speaks to how people view you as, a friend or a mentor or a husband or father, all these things.
That you got in touch with my co-authors and that they were featured. That just blew me away. I was not expecting that. Not because, they're not connected to HIU, but you went out of your way to kind of tap into some of my other part of my life, which is my research and writing, and to bring that in. That was a really special thing for me. So thank you.
Well, people care a great deal about you. I thought a lot about my first question too, actually. And it's something that I think you even brought up in your speech a few weeks ago. You have been told, and I think you think of yourself as a builder. You're a builder of things. And that certainly speaks to your past. And we can get into that a little bit more about what your early vocation was and all that. I kind of took it in a different way in terms of, yes, you are a builder. I also think you're a bit of a renovator as well. What would you say if you were to take those two identities and put them together? Would you say that could be fair, or would you say you are more of a builder?
Yeah, definitely somewhere between those two poles.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a friend of mine who's really knowledgeable person, head of a major foundation, and we were sitting over dinner talking a little bit about these things, and he indicated he thought I would be good for a position in the future or something. And it was kind of an interesting conversation. And I said, well, why do you think I'd be good for that? And he said, well, I know they have some hard decisions ahead of them and they need to make some change there, or this is not going to go well for them. And you're the person I think would have the courage to do it. And I was humbled by that, because this is a well-known and big job, possibly. I actually ultimately decided it wasn't going to be for me, but the point that he was making, he actually said to me, well, you see yourself as a change leader, don't you? Yeah. And I hadn't thought of that before. I hadn't thought of myself as a change leader. And I said, I don't know that I think of myself that way, but I guess if you put it that way, maybe I do. And so, renovator, builder. It's not that I don't want to stay with anything too long, but I feel like I was able to come into a great organization and help refine it and make it an even better one. It's kind of hard to say that, but I think that's just true based on some things. I'm really proud of where we are today and what we have. And yeah, so whether it's building from, I don't know, I haven't built anything really from the ground up other than houses and construction projects, actual buildings when I was in construction management. But in terms of the positions I've had post-construction, going into higher ed, ministry, all of that have been renovations. When I came to University of the Pacific, I was able to step into a great department of religious and spiritual life and move it from a quite small operation with a few campus ministers and chaplains into a larger operation. And we really brought faculty into the work in ways that even the non-religious, we had this whole non-religious program and last lectures. And so we kind of revamped the entire program and made it respectable and put it on the map. I'm really proud of that and was able to leave that after I was there for 6 years and then came here. It's been 7 years. So I guess renovation is probably a good term.
I think you saw opportunity. I think you saw about 10 years ahead of where things should be. I think you probably look at things maybe in 5, 10, 20 years, maybe even longer. I think that's how you have to be as someone who is a leader of an organization.
And I take no credit for that, but I can talk about it.
Well, you also have, I felt, a really good support system in terms of the board.
Absolutely.
Staff certainly helped carry out your vision. So, and I think you need that. I think you need a good team. Just like any kind of building situation, you need an able workforce, craftsmanship, all these things.
The site manager can't do it alone, or the construction manager, or the firm. You need, it's all about the people. Yeah. But let me say a little bit about that. When I say it wasn't, I don't take credit for it. I need to give credit to others who, of course, the team, the board. It was really Leo Lambert, president at Elon College, became Elon University under his tenure. He did so much at Elon to move it from a regional kind of lesser known institution, smaller college, into a major nationally ranked university.
This is in North Carolina?
North Carolina. Okay. And I got to know him. I gave a lecture there years ago, and he reached out and greeted me and thanked me for my talk. And so I got to know him, and he became a friend. And when I became president here, I remember thinking to myself, I want to talk to Leo about how he was able to do what he did at Elon. And Leo didn't just push me off or write a little email in response or, read this book or anything. He actually took time to meet with me, invited me to his home, and then he came and spoke to our board. And what Leo impressed upon me was, what is your vision? Like when you're looking as an institution, as a people, he said this to our board, what is the horizon point that you're going to? And I'm not talking 1 year from now or 3 years, like where do you hope to be 10 years from now, 15 years, 20 years from now? And he made very clear to our board, this institution is never going to rise above you as the board. You as a board need to have a vision that you can cast with your president for the institution to go. Like, what is the horizon point you as a board are casting with the help of your president, your CEO? And that was really, it was like, it will never rise above you. That you can't expect the employees, the faculty, the staff, or even the president to rise above the vision you have. This is where it starts. So he really helped us, and that was a pinnacle moment. That was already in 2019, or
I remember him visiting,
March or February 2019. We all read his book,
the book about you gave the book out to everybody. Yeah. You took it seriously, the advice, and
absolutely,
it was very adaptable to this place and
perfect for this place. Really, perfect. Yeah.
Well, since we alluded a bit to your building past, let's actually go back to the beginning.
Sure.
So for those of you, a lot of people do know you are from Canada. What province? What's
Ontario, Canada, Ontario. Southern Ontario.
Okay. All right. And then you grew up there your entire life?
Yeah. You can probably just say so, but I did move from a small town right on Lake Erie called Dunnville, Ontario. And when I was graduated from the 8th grade, my family moved to Elmira, which is near Waterloo, Kitchener. So it's all the general same area, Southern Ontario. Major part of Canada's population lives in this area, but we moved about an hour and a half away.
Okay. Yeah. And Waterloo is famous for the blackberry.
That's true.
Yes.
That's right. What was known as the crackberry when it first came out.
Exactly, which I think you actually had one when you first came here. So that's where you grew up primarily. Were you a good student? did you have your sights set on academia as a profession?
No. Not at all. So I don't want to, there's so much story here about my upbringing that is, I think, funny and interesting. Very working class home, lovely parents, very loving. My father is a contractor, has literally always been a contractor. And by that, the story is that he never finished the 8th grade as a Dutch immigrant. His English was not up to par for finishing the 8th grade. The teachers indicated to him and his parents that my grandparents, that he would be held back to finish do 8th grade over. And at that point, my grandfather, Dutch immigrant, said, "Why don't you come work with me, son?" So took him out of school, never finished 8th grade, went to construction, and has been doing construction since he was whatever age that was, 12 years old. Wow. Still to this day, he's 83, born in 42. So whatever that is.
Still working.
Still doing a little bit of work here and there. He loves it. He's done it all his life. So that background is important. My mother similarly didn't finish high school. So very working class. Never in my experience as a child did I not only have the youth talk about going to university, I don't think I ever heard my parents utter the word university. Wow. It just wasn't part of our vocabulary. Very different world. So when I felt this call, so fast forward a lot here, when I felt a call to ministry after I was a carpenter, did my apprenticeship, was working in construction management at this point, I was in my mid-20s, early 20s, mid-20s, I feel this call to ministry. And for me, that just meant become a minister, preach, be in the pulpit. I called a seminary saying, I want to be a minister. I feel a call to ministry. And so they encouraged me to send in my, application. This was before the internet, paper application, and send in your statement of faith and why you feel called, and have a letter of reference, and send in your transcripts. And is at that moment I said, "What are transcripts?" And they're like, "Well, transcripts from your BA." You have a BA, don't you? I said, "What's a BA? I don't know what that is." And they're like, a Bachelor of Arts. You don't have an undergrad degree. You have to have an undergrad to come to graduate school. And I honestly didn't know what a BA was. So I just said, well, I guess I have to get one. And it was, somebody at church in the basement after church said, well, you got to get a BA at either Wheaton College or Trinity Western University in Canada here. And so I applied to both those places, got into Trinity Western, went to college, and fell in love with the academy, loved everything I was doing, worked really hard. I didn't do very well in my high school studies. I was too busy with other pursuits, skateboarding and Metallica and concerts and things. But by the time I got to college, when I was a little more disciplined, I applied myself and did well and exceeded. I was doing very well, and my professors kind of talked to me. One in particular basically said, you should consider a life in scholarship and the life of the academy. And it was really hard for me because I felt this ministry call, and that felt confused for me. But I came to realize that there could be a call to a different kind of ministry in higher ed, and maybe the classroom or the sort of university would be the pews in the church. At that point, I had a very deep connection to church without any real interreligious a little bit here and there, but very minor kind of encounters with people of other faith. But at that point, I still was on a journey to be seeing the university as my church and as the pews, and that came to broaden later. But yeah, anyway, that's how I got into higher ed.
How important is it to have those people in your life that seem to nudge you on a path? And when you look back, you go, well, of course, they were there and they did that. But during the time of you living in the present, you don't know the impact they're going to have later. Looking back, how do you understand how important those situations and people were for you?
Huge. They really are big. If you think, from finding friends and partners like my wife, I remember meeting my wife and feeling like she was this beautiful, wonderful person that I was not adequate to, or I felt like, why would she want to go out with me? And this guy I was working with, it was like, well, she'll never go out with you if you have that mentality. Go out and be the fun guy she wants to be with. Just little things in life sometimes people can say to you, kind of inspire you to do things. And even my call to ministry, I was working, helping with a youth group at our church, and the youth pastor said to me, he noticed I was reading Calvin's Institutes, John Calvin, the complete works. And he was like, "You're insane. Why are you reading Calvin's Institutes? We had to read that in seminary. It was terrible." And I kind of laughed. I'm like, I found it interesting. He's like, "You got to go to seminary." And it was really him that was like, that pushed me in that direction. So these voices or these encouragements along the way, the professors, they're a big part of it all. And I don't know that I am as, maybe I'm not spiritual enough, but I don't know that I sit in quiet spaces waiting for God to speak to me directly. I feel like occasionally you can feel that, or God's speaking to you directly in some way, or maybe through a scripture or passage or something. But I think God works through people to speak to us. And that's been the story of my life for sure.
Yeah.
Whether my wife or those sort of, even sometimes a stranger will say something to you and you're like, whoa, okay. That helps. That's what I needed right now.
Well, I think your ability to embrace different perspectives and understand those situations certainly informed what you do today. I mean, certainly here at HIU.
So it wasn't actually an easy ride for me in terms of, I mean, had lots of great moments along the way. I landed a postdoc at University of Toronto, which was really, really special. I was grateful for that. It was a government funded postdoc, which was a big deal to get. Ended up at University of Toronto. I taught for 2 years at my alma mater at Trinity Western University. From there, I was faced with this really interesting challenge. It was around, I graduated in 2007 for my PhD, and the market just kind of fell out in that moment.
That was
and
the
so
financial
the jobs,
collapse.
collapse. Yeah. Jobs were, really hard to find. And religion, as you know, still even then was in decline in some respects. So teaching religion wasn't, it's not like they were creating new departments of religion at that point. So you're really just replacing existing positions, some of which weren't being replaced. And so during my postdoc, I realized that it was going to be tough to find a tenure track professorship. And so I just started looking broadly. I've always been open to new opportunities. And I noticed a position at University of the Pacific, which was in this Department of Religious and Spiritual Life with a possibility to teach, but it wasn't a professorship. But Stockton, California, University of the Pacific, ended up there and ended up running a department, had a lot of responsibilities. It was, for that time in my career, was a really good job. It was well paying. It was, really helped us as a family kind of reestablish ourselves. So ended up in a kind of non-traditional role in the academy. Kind of that people tap you when they, you make a contribution. And I remember just being in settings, because I oversaw chaplaincy and spiritual sort of development, and they had a whole liberal arts, kind of program there where they were concerned about development of the whole person. There was different aspects of wellness that they were, economic wellness, spiritual wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness. They had all these elements of wellness, of which spirituality or, spiritual wellness was one. So I was invited into all kinds of spaces, these students of concern meetings. The sort of psychological and counseling services would sometimes call in our department for help. The president would, we had a values initiative at the institution. What are our values? Not our mission, but, there's mission, vision, values. And so what are the values of this institution? We should have the chaplain or, have the university dean of religious life be part of that. So I was invited in those spaces. And when you make good contributions, people seem to tap you. And so the president would tap me for things, and the deans, and, just was able to make good contributions. And it was there that I kept getting pulled into more administration and realized administration itself can be a form of service. It's, and I liked coupling that with my research and my teaching. But then I became president here, and as much as I had hoped to teach as much as I could, I have taught classes here, but it hasn't been a big part of it. It was just so much administrative work. And I guess you gravitate often to the things you most want to do. And that's where I ended up.
Yeah. Where your attention is called the most. So you were there at University of Pacific for 6 years. How do you understand where Hartford Seminary was at the time? Hartford Seminary, now HIU, this small little place in Hartford, Connecticut.
Yep.
How does that get on your radar?
So Uriah Kim, former dean here at Hartford, then Hartford Seminary, was someone whose email would regularly come to me. So I was at one point in my life quite a regular contributor. At least I had written a few reviews for Reviews in Religion and Theology, I think was the title of the journal. It's a peer-reviewed journal. It used to be edited here, or at least he was the editor for it. And so Uriah Kim used to send me emails with book lists. Is there any books here you can review? I was part of a massive mailing list. And I remember seeing his email signature, which I think had an image, the logo.
Had the building image with the blue background.
R2D2.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Space Wars or whatever. Yeah. But the tagline was there, exploring differences, deepening faith. And so it caught my attention, but frankly didn't pay a lot of attention. I just noticed it. And I guess it was 2017. I was in my 5th or 6th year at University of the Pacific. I had a good friend, Joel Kaminsky, professor at Smith College, who said, Hartford Seminary is looking for a president. You'd be really good at that job. Do you know anything about Hartford? I'm like, I don't. I think Uri is there, Uri Kim or something. He says, oh, you should check it out. No, it's the real deal. He knew enough about it to know what it was doing. He said, you should check it out. It's doing good. It's doing the sort of dialogue we're interested in. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because I don't normally, to be honest, I don't normally associate seminaries with the kind of interreligious sort of space that I was interested in, which was, it's not that it didn't have concern for life and faith and spiritual practice, but it was also operating at, I don't want to say higher level, but at a different kind of space in terms of the academic sort of pursuit of things that respected difference. Because a lot of this, not to disparage it, but a lot of the interfaith work in the world, in my view, falls short because it tends to move too quickly to, lack of a better term, the kumbaya.
Right.
We all believe the same things. We're all spiritual. We're all religious. Let's just get along. Why can't we just get along kind of thing? And I really didn't have a lot of it. It has its place. People are enriched by it. It's not something I have an interest in. So when I learned Hartford Seminary had this tagline, I was like, oh yeah, that's the place with exploring differences. And I was like, yeah, Joel, that's my friend Joel Kaminsky. I'm like, fascinating that they care so much about difference that they put it in their tagline. I mean, most taglines are, positive, increasing. Right. Here they use the word differences in their tagline, their logo. That place gets it. And I thought, okay, if you want to, and I said to Joel, if you want to nominate me, go ahead. I don't think they're going to take me seriously as, I don't know what I was then, whatever I was 7 years ago, early 40s, young guy,
right.
Never been a president. So he nominated me, and there's a series of things that happened. Eventually I got here.
And I remember you coming here, and I remember you getting everybody together in the meeting room, and that was a chance, an opportunity for, at the time you were a candidate, and I remember you sitting at a long table and saying, if I come here, you will have a new website. I remember you saying.
I do remember that.
So you pitched a really unique vision, I think, of not just the short term, but the long term goal of what you saw this place could be. You certainly called attention to, the factors of, religion it's a hard sell. And especially when you're taking all the Abrahamic faiths and beyond, and you're trying to create a space and graduate degrees and, putting people out into the world and all these factors that come into what we do here. It's not easy work, but I think that you were ready, and you certainly communicated that you're ready to take on a challenge like that. And you're ready to envision again, what it could be in this 2018 world. Little did you know when you would get here that the challenges would exist, but beyond that, there'd be external challenges as well.
So many. I think to a fault, sometimes it's to my detriment. I care about detail. My wife would affirm that, maybe less than she wants to affirm it, but doesn't always make it easy in life. But I care about detail. Care about how we use words. I was grateful when I came here. There wasn't things glaring at me like, the tagline, exploring differences, deepening faith. The mission was strong. The coupling of service to something higher than ourselves, or service to God within the mission, but then also understanding that takes place through research, takes place through teaching, takes place through strengthening institutions, and with respect for dialogue and difference and diversity. So there wasn't a lot of it was not an overhaul by any means. And I've always said, let's focus on the things we're doing well and build upon them. And I think that's true. But yeah, some of the detail, like the website, there were so many ways. And Steve, I just have to call you out here because it's really important. I know you're doing me this wonderful service here of talking to me, but Steve, you have been instrumental along with your team, with Susan as your director of communications, and with others. I mean, what we have achieved here in the magazine, in the website, in this podcast, in the videos that you're making. I'm in the process of writing letters to every employee here to say thank you. And in your letter, I can't thank you enough for what
you just write thanks. And
no. But you started this conversation asking about, it takes a team, but it really does. And without talented people, and the work that you've done. I'm just so proud of that. There's been so much detailed work that's been put into this place to do everything that we can to the fullest and to the best and to, top notch in every respect. Yeah. And if you can't, then you have to make those hard decisions to decide those aren't as important to you.
Let's talk a bit about leadership and vision. Did you feel like you had a mandate specifically, or did you feel like you needed to listen to, again, what was working, what could be redone, reorganized, and then from there, did you have a grand plan of, I think that maybe there's an opportunity to re-envision and eventually rebrand ourselves?
It's a great question. To set the record really straight here, I did not come here actually with my own vision. I really came here impressed by the vision of this place. I had no mandate. I had no encouragement from the board or anyone else to make changes. I was given, and it was the question I was asked every time. The first, time I'd meet with a group of alumni within a month or within a few weeks, and they would ask me this question: "What's your vision for Hartford Seminary? What's your vision?" And I answered the same all the time. It was always, the vision is here. I'm here because of the vision that's already here. I'm not here to change. And I stand by that. And it was only it didn't take long though, to be honest, in a few board meetings, in little offhanded conversations where people would say, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, of course the name doesn't really work because we're not a seminary." Or, we haven't ordained people here since the 1970s. We have a cooperative MDiv program, but we're not really a seminary. And, we're not connected to a particular church, or we're not connected to a religious body. We don't have a group, we're not UC. We used to be UCC, but we're not anymore. We don't have a residential program. We're not, And so there was a lot of those and I found myself at the beginning of speeches, because you're often asked to speak or talk about the, seminary. I found myself regularly explaining that we're not actually what our word says we are. And it got kind of...
That's frustrating.
Yeah, it got a little old, actually. I was just sort of like, why? And I found myself doing it, and others would do it. And it was at that moment where, I kind of brought this up at a board meeting or something. Someone said, "Well, we went through this whole process to look at our name because we all know we need to change it." And I think one board member said something like, the tables would turn and people would yell at each other, and, chairs would fly, and we'd all say, "All right, it's too hard. Let's just leave it.
Right.
It has so much, history here. It's who we are. It's not worth it." And I remember sitting in that room thinking to myself, that's not a good reason to keep living with something that doesn't work. That's going to hold us back, and it's holding us back. And so it was at that moment where it wasn't coming in with any vision. I thought I'd start at Hartford Seminary, leave at Hartford Seminary. I came here committed to the idea of seminary. And I'm still committed to the idea of nurturing seeds that grow into, ministerial spaces. And I actually knew that it didn't have that sort of ordination track. It was more about sort of religion and peace. It was more about bringing peace through understanding and through dialogue around difference and exploring those differences so that you can deepen faith, whatever that faith might be. It always had a large Muslim population, or at least since I've been here. I think every year I've been here, we've had a majority Muslim population. So I didn't come with a new vision, but I learned pretty quickly that this was a thorny issue. It was sensitive to people. It was going to need real care and guidance to get us through it. And we hired some good people to help us.
So tell me a bit about the timeline, because the rebranding effort started the idea of it, at least in 2019.
The idea, so we embarked on a strategic plan really early. I think even in my first year, 2018, November, the board gave me the freedom or mandate to start a strategic plan. I think it was the next board meeting that we invited Leo Lambert to start thinking about what does a strategic plan mean. That was like February or March of 2019. And then we hired some consultants and people to help us kind of think about strategic plan and just be really clear about strategic plan. Because anyone listening here may be saying, "Oh, strategic plan." But I had exactly the same feeling. Board members had the same feeling. I still remember some board members saying things like, yeah, strategic plan. These things just, fill the books on a shelf and you never look at it. It's essentially a binder of printed pages that no one looks at. This will be a waste of time. And I knew that, or I've heard that before in previous places of of work in institutions. And I just committed myself. If we're going to do a strategic plan, every element has to have actionable items, and we're going to, track them and do them. It gets measured, gets done. And I didn't want it to be that way. So 2019, February, Leo Lambert comes talk to the board. the vision for the name change, because I think that was your question, was always on our minds. But when we voted on the strategic plan in March of 2020, and everyone knows March 2020 was the moment of COVID, we actually voted on that by Zoom, our first full board Zoom meeting. We voted on the strategic plan, not with a new name, but with an openness to examine the name, because even in that strategic plan, there was still a lot of attachment to the name, and no one was willing to say, we will change our name. But you'll notice if you dig into the documents, even the presentation, Hartford Seminary is always in square brackets. Interesting. Already then we realized it may or may not be Hartford Seminary in the future. And this is an open question that we at least are open to exploring. So in March of 2020, I was given the freedom to explore, or given an opportunity to look at the name with branding experts, with the people, and engage in a rebranding expedition, or just openness opportunity. And so we may have ended there. I think at least my memory tells me we didn't decide it would for sure get changed, but I think there was certainly the understanding that it possibly would, or could, and probably, I think it was like a probably, we need to do something with this.
Well, big change takes iterations.
Yeah.
A little bit along the way. It can't be overnight. So talk to me a bit about, I mean, you mentioned it, COVID, March 2020, not just affected us, affected the world, and interestingly affected higher education very uniquely, I think, because our student base is, very international, and there's visa situations, and they had to, I remember our MAP students at the time, they graduate in May, but we had a small little ceremony, I think the day before there was hey, everyone needs to go back home because we don't know what the situation is going to be. It might've been March 19th or something like that. Yep. So, talk to me a bit about I guess just like the headspace of navigating not only an organization during COVID, but then on top of that, you've just introduced this whole new situation of, I think we need to be something more.
Talk about being, trial by fire.
Right.
Or
it's one thing on top of the other. It's
unbelievable moment. And it's sort of, I don't know if there's analogies here from when you're a child and you learn how to do something, or in construction, you come to a point where you're able to start handling power tools, and you just have to learn how to do things, and you learn things very quickly. Right. So you're in this moment of incredible change, incredible fear. People are locking down. You're getting voices, kind of leadership challenges, just the sort of leadership challenges you're always facing when you get naysayers. You've got some people saying you should lock down, you should be wearing masks, you should have distancing, you shouldn't be in the building. And the world was saying that, so we were very cautious and careful. Abundance of caution. All those words we kept using, and unprecedented. It got a bit old and tired after a while, but we were careful, and we had to I remember sitting in rooms with masks on with a few key individuals upstairs in my office, making really big decisions about whether students needed vaccination, whether they, should be in the classroom. We're moving things to Zoom. Protocols back then, it's kind of looks silly now knowing what we know, but cleaning protocols and who should be in the space and who should be home. And so you learn so much through that. It was really hard. It was hard to manage the communication pieces of it. I think we did a decent job. We took, I wouldn't say a middle road, but we certainly had leniency and tried our best to respect religious and philosophical differences on this. We had some really good board members who pressed us in ways that I think ultimately were right on providing some freedom, but with real caution about testing if they're not willing to get vaccinated and some things. I think we took the right road there. It was hard. We had a lot of pushback from others that said it should be absolute, and but we really tried our best to honor difference, even in that, and respect difference. So it was tough. And then the name change and all that was going on at the same time. It was like leadership. I don't know, fire hose coming at you.
Was that the toughest period, you think, for you, that stretch?
I would say second toughest.
Yeah. Okay.
And the toughest has actually been just throughout the time, but intensified with October 7th.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So we make it to a point where COVID quiets down a bit in 2021. October here of 2021, we have the grand unveiling, the relaunch, the rebranding of Hartford Seminary to Hartford International University for Religion and Peace. It is, I think, one of the best events I've certainly ever been a part of. It felt like everyone came together. Everyone was on a team, and we got the football over like the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like, we
Joyful.
just scored, what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of joy, a lot of arms in the air kind of feeling.
Absolutely. And I think it was really just poignant that it was this post-COVID time and everyone worked through it. And this was just the thing that we won in a sense. And so, we had dignitaries here. We had the governor here, the mayor.
Joshua Salam come and MC the event. Did
yes,
a great
who
job
did an
from
amazing
Duke,
job.
one of our alums.
Yeah, just did an
Fantastic.
incredible job he did.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to get up there on stage and say, here's our identity now.
Yeah.
Here's everything.
That was a powerful moment.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was probably one of the most momentous. Yeah, it was a momentous event. One of the more powerful moments in my time as a leader, to see us come around it. I remember we had a lot of work leading up to that moment. We didn't want to surprise everyone. There were people that we wanted to ensure, and that gave us a moment to connect with some of our alums and with our former trustees and have moments. So I kind of met with them and shared some of this, asked them not to go public with it, but there was kind of a moment before that. We really planned that out well. It was a lot of work. Susan and you and the team deserved a lot of effort. Our consultants had helped with logo and brand and all that. But that was a powerful moment. And I think the name, we often say now that the name is the mission. There's a lot of, and we know it's a mouthful, it's a long name, but it's just captures so much within those words. Hartford International, we are local, we are global.
Yes.
University, we're not, we are an aspiring place where the world now understands what we're doing. Right. Seminary, traveling in Indonesia, like seminary, that's where priests go. It's like, no, Muslim, it's different. So Hartford International University. And then you have that word for actionary. We had thought of and, different, but no, this is like a for. This work is all in service of religion and peace. And those two words we don't really want to separate. It's not just for religion, but it's for the way those two intersect. And so religion and peace together, to be at a place for religion and peace is it's powerful. You can use the acronym Hartford International University, HIU. There's ways to speak in shorthand when we need to, but we don't want to lose that full name, because that's who we are. That's the identity. And what a powerful, I'm just so proud to be part of that moment and to be here. I think it's a big part of what I've been part of.
Sure.
My legacy. If there is a legacy, it's probably.
Of course. No, I think that's one of the defining points of your legacy. And the icon itself of a dove in the colors of flags from around the world, I thought was.
The Olympic symbols. Yeah. The Olympic rings.
Just a really beautiful, it ties the
origami idea, international and feel, ascending. I think we trademarked the word ascending dove. If we ever need it for a future campaign or something, but just this idea of the sort of ascending nature of it. And, it's not in retreat. It's aspiring and leaving and flying. Right. Grasping.
And it all makes sense. And I love that in design and storytelling and narrative, anything. When you're getting opinions and people are, I get it. And you said that you led up to the unveiling of HIU and you were talking to key board members. And I remember on Zoom, we presented, the branding video and everything. And I don't believe anyone had a negative thing or a cautionary, I don't know about this. Everyone was in full support, I believe, which is extremely rare.
It was really rare. There were moments where we would have conversations about how will the word university work, given our size, given our scope. We did a lot of due diligence on that with state accreditors and national, in terms of, even though state of Connecticut's fairly open to how you use that term. In Massachusetts, there's a more stringent requirement of having graduate programs, both master's and PhD level or doctoral level. I think it actually is PhD to use that term. So we went to the highest standard and felt that we met or came to, legally and otherwise meet the requirements. We realize it's a very small institution to use that term. But the idea of the university, if you look at the historic use of that term, it really captures who we are. And it gives a lot of room for religion and peace. It doesn't limit it to ministry or pulpit ministry or synagogue, mosque, church. It opens things up. So the future could have a wider variety of programs. And I don't know what those are. I'm hopeful for them and prayerful for them. But whether it's diplomacy or whether it's psychology or whether it's around governmental sort of
affairs
and civil service. There's lots of ways that word is now open. There's sort of a blank slate here. We have continued in the important work of chaplaincy, interreligious understanding. We doubled down on the idea of international peace building as a program. But there is a lot of, education could fall within that, whether, maybe an EDD or educational doctorate, or there's a whole, as this place continues to establish itself in that word. And it's interesting to me. My wife just said to me recently, it's early in the days, it was so easy to keep trying to accidentally say Hartford Seminary. Now that we're HIU, Hartford International, I kind of realized or figured this would happen, but now I feel like we've come to this point, apart from those who just maybe aren't as in contact with us, who went here as an alum or something, but the people who know us and work with us, and now that we're in this moment, we're HIU, we're Hartford International, we're Hartford International University. It feels almost kind of strange to think of us now as Hartford Seminary.
Yes.
And I knew that turning point would happen. There's still probably some work to do for others who aren't as connected to us as alums and others. But you're right. It was almost unanimous support. And by almost, I mean, there wasn't naysayers protesting. We had no protest. People were like, this captures it. Yeah. We had international students reach out to me out of the woodwork to say, I thank you, President Lohr. This name captures what I am and what I believe in. We still have that to this day when I travel. Indonesia, they just love this. Can you say the full name?
Right.
They just love this idea that we're a university for religion and peace, that we're international. It's really quite remarkable in ways that I'm still kind of pondering. And I still, I feel a little, there were moments where I felt almost responsible in a guilt way, like, what did I do? And then there's moments now where I'm realizing, oh, this is what we needed to do.
Yeah, I think it was the right time and the right person to do it. And you've certainly given everything a runway for the future, as you said. Talk to me a bit about the business aspect of what you do, because you, as a president, you travel, you fundraise, you are involved in, international affairs, community affairs. You do a lot as a figurehead beyond just a president. Were you ever comfortable with that identity? Did you ever find yourself struggling with the business side? Did you like the business side?
I like the business side. I feel like in that area we've been renovating as well.
Yeah.
There's things, just cleanup of how we do things and systems and trying to streamline them. I've enjoyed that piece because I think it's important for efficiency. The efficiency of an organization is what will help it thrive.
Sure.
And allow it a future. If you stay in old systems or you have deadwood or things that are holding you back, it's hard to be in a small institution like ours. There's not a lot of wiggle room. You really do need to have efficient systems and people who are all working for common cause and mission. And leadership, CEO, it is all encompassing. Leo Lambert, early in my time, he's been a mentor, and others have said the same. As a president, you'll probably start out maybe half and half, or even a little more on the operations of the institution than you will fundraising and outward facing work or the external work. But as you grow into the position, you'll find yourself increasingly doing the donor related external work. And I think that's true of me too. First few years, there was a lot of cleaning up, fixing, not because it was a mess, but just, anytime you're at if you live in a home and you move, it's like, oh man, we've collected a lot of stuff here.
Of course.
And so coming in, there was just fresh eyes to look at things and say, let's do this. Why don't we look at this? Let's move to this consultant. Let's maybe do that in-house and not whatever it was. So we did a lot in the beginning, and we still do some, we're always improving.
You're always right.
Never stops.
It's always evolving. Yes.
Yeah. But I would say that ratio has moved from probably 40% donor external relations, 60% operations, reversed. I would say it's probably 60% donor, if not more now. And that's just partly because I've gained confidence in it and just realized that's the success. Leo Lambert told me early in my time here, he says, just go out and raise a lot of money. People will love you.
Yeah, sure.
And that'll help, ground your work. And I found that really challenging. It was intimidating, but going out and bringing new money into the organization, by money, I just mean resources and enabling it to do what it needs to do. So I've been grateful for those opportunities.
The way that we do education is very unique. We have a structure of both in-house where, we still have a very traditional model. People come and learn with us. The MAP program is a year-long experience where people come from all over the country and they're in this intensive environment for a year and then ultimately go back, or they stay here in America and adapt what they've learned. How has education changed in just the course of your tenure here, from a traditional model, but also embracing this new digital world of Zoom and different learning methods?
So there's some things that, to the credit of this institution, long before me, when I came, we already had a fully online MA. We didn't have a ton of students doing it, but we did have the accreditation approval, and we had the means to deliver that for the most part. Sometimes it was hard to get all the courses offered for someone, but we were doing that before I came. So 2018, we're already fully on, at least there was one degree you could do fully online. Not many people doing it, but you could do it.
No, but I mean, even back then, even for any university, that was pretty unique.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It was huge. And the board pushed, and that's kind of where the Leo Lambert idea, you'll never rise above the vision of the board. The board was pretty adamant that this is a possibility. There are not many, but a few out there that are doing it. Why not us? Especially with our international appeal and, their way. So we were doing this before I came. So in that way, it wasn't like I brought that idea or those sorts of ideas here. There was that vision for technology and embracing technology. But what has changed since I've arrived at HIU, or then Hartford Seminary, is just the incredible shift with AI. And it's not like, AI is just artificial intelligence. We had other, when I taught at University of the Pacific, we used a form of AI, which was an intelligent kind of technology to examine, submissions to check if they were plagiarized. We were using AI at some level, but the sort of flowering of AI in the last couple of years, particularly with the ability to type in questions and for it to produce written materials, producing video, producing audio, imagery. There's so many ways that AI has really just exploded in the last couple of years. I have my own concerns about some of that in terms of, it's not that I'm concerned people won't learn things and be smart and get degrees and go out and do things in the world, but I think it's when you have so much disruption and change through something, any technology, there's bound to be things we're going to look back on. And I think if you just, different example, but same idea, if you look back on how social media impacted the lives of our children, we're now realizing there were things that we allowed to happen or that were going on that we didn't fully appreciate. Increase of depression among young ladies and girls and men. And there's just ways that it's exacerbated some of our societal ills that we couldn't have fully appreciated in that moment. And I do have concerns about how AI production of essays, and it's not that we do our best to embrace what we can or use it carefully and talk about it with our students, and professors can use it. There's a whole article in Chronicle of Higher Ed about using AI as a professor to prepare lectures and grade. And so both sides of that equation of teacher and teach, the student are being explored, but I don't think we're there. We're obviously not there yet. And I do think we're going to look back in a few years and say, you know what, we probably need to reassess X, Y, or Z. And do I believe in my heart that a student is going to be better educated because of AI? I think so, but I'm also concerned there may be things lost. And I'm a little old fashioned. I'm not going to hide it. Sitting down with a book and the hard work of actually muscle memory of having to listen and learn and to explore and to ponder, spitting out an answer on AI is not going to be the same as that. And it may get you places and it may help open some things up, but the art or the work of transformation that needs to take place through education can't be rushed. And AI will accelerate some of it, but it can't accelerate all of it.
Yeah, there's something that I think is to be said about doing the hard work of actually physically doing something. I think there's a real benefit to doing that just as humans. I think to learn or to adapt a skill.
Yep. I was with someone yesterday who finished out a long tenure as dean of a university, and his moment of goodbye was in 2020, late in that year. And because of COVID, they couldn't do the in-person farewell to thank him for his service. So they did a Zoom toast, and, everyone was on the Zoom line. And he said to me, it's interesting looking back, I feel like I was robbed of a moment because it was nice to have everyone in the room and there was a lot of nice things said, but just the real in-person moment. And so even though, yes, we can meet by Zoom, we can do things online, we can do a lot, but there will always be a piece, like I'm sitting across from you, Steve, right now.
This wouldn't be the same effect if we were to do this in Zoom.
If we can do it in Zoom, it can be
It could be
reasonably
done,
effective.
right,
It can be good, but you remember watching, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel or the late night, or
right.
There were Zoom moments from his home, but it helped us through.
Right.
But it doesn't replace the in-person.
replicate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like online swimming or something, it's tough to really be a great swimmer if you're just doing it
very true.
online.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going, honestly. I mean, in terms of what I do, it's certainly going to streamline a lot of processes, make things more affordable, cheaper, more accessible. But I don't know. I think the rules are still being written. It's still the Wild West, like you said, with social
Wild
media.
West. Absolutely.
I don't know.
We're not done that experiment either. We're still learning things.
Still learning with social media. So yeah, the benefit of hindsight is you can look back and say, well, could have done this, could have done that. But when you're living in it.
And you can also ask, let's be really honest with ourselves in a way that's hard for us, because I don't think we like progress, but have the quality of our conversations and debate and discussions really improved with the social media? Unfortunately, there are ways that it's declined and devolved.
I asked, the period of what's been the hardest stretch of your tenure here, COVID being one of them, October 7th is another stretch. Again, this is why this place is so unique. There's so many perspectives. And when things happen, certainly abroad, it affects us more than most. Talk to me about the emotion of that time, your role as a leader in that time, and trying to navigate waters of two sides.
No, this is crucial because it goes to the core of who we are and our mission. And I think it is a little bit of the piling up of things, like the hardship through COVID, the incredible work that we pulled off to rebrand, to revamp all of our degrees, to go through our 10-year accreditation while I've been here. There's been all of those things, and that in itself is enough to, if not break a person, it'll certainly weigh on you in a way that you need rest, you need recovery. We're just coming through a lot of those big moments, and what could have been, and probably, I don't want to say should, because I don't have expectations in life. I don't deserve to be pampered or, have things, we're all, that's life. Yeah. But what could have been a moment of sort of enjoying the new moment, the branding, the new degrees, the growth, the Howard Thurman Center starting, the building, that's become tainted by this very sensitive moment. And by sensitive, I mean just catastrophic moment of October 7th, which is a symbol of something bigger, which has always been there. It's been there the day I set foot on the campus. In fact, in my interview, you talked about the long table at the interview. At the interview stage, one of the questions that came to me is, how are you going to handle Israel-Palestine? And my answer is one I stand by, which was, I don't think we're going to solve that here at Hartford. But if there's ever a place that could make some contributions and help people with understanding, this is the place that can do that. So there's hope here. And I stand by that to this day, right now, this minute, almost 7 years later, probably more than 7 years, because the interview took place before I came. I stand by that. This is a unique place, but it did come at a moment where I, as president, and where all of us, I think, are just feeling the weight of everything we've done. And then to have this really hard moment of the way that October 7th brought about, and then of course the response and the ongoing conflict, and now we are seeing increased conflict around Iran. I mean, and if you weigh that on top of things a lot of us care about as well, in Congo and Sudan and Uyghurs, the world, and Russia, there's just so much and to pile on. But just the way that the particular, as many people refer to this land, the Holy Land, it has significance on a religious level in ways that other countries don't, like conflicts and elsewhere. So that moment was hard, and to have the sort of people coming out of the woodwork. And as president, I'm just going to be very open about this. I think you just have to realize that as president, you represent a certain power, or if you're mad at a certain person, whether it's a president or whether it's our president or the president of Israel or, Netanyahu or whoever, even if I don't have any association with that person and I don't share their views, somehow there's a need to speak truth to power, because that's built into us in an institution like this. And so there'd be moments where I had to just realize, and one of the hardest things about being a president or a leader, especially in higher ed, which was advice given to me or just shared with me that was real, was you often have to take a lot and you can't give it back.
Yeah.
And so there are just moments where people would kind of direct anger or direct frustration or direct a feeling of needing to speak up and speak truth to me that wasn't actually to Joel or the human, the person. It was, I am speaking up to power because we need to speak up against the atrocities of our world, which were real and understandable.
Right.
And so to be that representative of power was hard. And so when you asked, what was the hardest moment? COVID was tough. It was really hard. But I will say the way that just the despair or the way that moment pushed on me as president has been really hard. I'm not going to lie or just, hide that. I think it's been hard for all presidents, and I'm grateful for the way. I just need to clarify. I am so grateful for the people here, our students, for, if you think of the fact that we are a Muslim majority population here student wise, many Jewish students, many Christian students, people with a wide diversity of viewpoints on what goes on in world affairs in Israel, Palestine, that we have lived together through this, that we have not had a major meltdown or physical altercations, that we have told each other over and over again that we respect and love each other, that we're committed to that in the classroom. Of course, there's been little things here and there, but for the most part, I am just so impressed by this. Even if it's been hard, I often think our students have so much to teach us as those who are in faculty roles and community roles, because they're the ones who are every day learning and with and from each other.
Right. Yeah. And that's the benefit of coming here as a student. You are informing the faculty just as much, I think, as they're informing.
It's
the
cliche,
other way around.
but we learn with and from our students as they learn from us.
Yeah, because they're coming from these places of conflict, and they're bringing.
They know conflict in ways that we can't imagine.
Right, exactly, and I think that's so great that we understand.
We've had students here who have seen
things that you couldn't,
massacres, who have witnessed the just awful things that are unspeakable. Yeah, there's an optimism that you feel when you meet students. There's a joy that comes even through that hardship. And it's something that I'm grateful I haven't had to experience some of the hardship of our students, but I'm also just, when I look with a great deal of respect and admiration and maybe a little bit of envy that they have learned something in life that I hope none of us have to learn, or some of us don't have to go through, thankfully. But that optimism, that hope, they come here because they see a better world ahead. It's a remarkable thing.
As you look back, as your time comes to a close here at HIU, are you still have the optimism, the drive? Do you still feel passionate about not only the mission, but your part overall in a world that is tough to pitch? It is tough to pitch this kind of peace and religion and understanding.
No, it's interesting, more than ever, probably more optimistic than ever. And despite what I said earlier about the hardship of October 7th and sort of what that's birthed and the moment that we're in because of, it obviously goes back before October 7th. But even despite the hardship, I am more optimistic than ever about this institution and what is possible. Although, integrity, my kind of intellectual honesty forces me to say, I've learned some things since coming here to Hartford. I've learned some things through my 20 plus years in higher ed and interreligious dialogue. I'm not convinced that dialogue will always lead to greater respect for the other. There may be moments where you come to learn things through your dialogue that you can still be courteous about. You can still be, but coming to know things about others or about traditions or philosophical ideas doesn't mean that you're always going to affirm them. So I've learned a lot about that. But I'm really optimistic. I'm optimistic about this institution right now. As we speak, in the last 24, 48 hours, we're getting news about new foundations that are funding us, that want to support peace building in the world. A lot of work went into those grant applications, but we're just seeing there's a movement, and I don't think that's slowing down. If anything, it's building up and growing. I'm really it feels, I feel a little bit, I'm a Seinfeld fan. I feel a little bit like Jerry Seinfeld is like, well, why didn't you do another season? He's like, I wanted to leave when we were at the height of our game. And I feel a little bit like that with this institution. I'm so maybe relieved, if I'm honest, that I can pass over to a new president a moment where we have substantial support coming in for the institution. We have good programs that have been developed and are really on the cusp of flowering. We have an Indonesian cohort program that is regular and will grow if we have the space to, the only problem right now is how are we going to house all the students that want to come from Indonesia?
It's a good problem to have, though.
And the visa problem. But, those are big problems.
Yeah, those are big problems.
But I'm still optimistic that there is a growing need and a growing awareness of who we are and what's possible.
President Lohr, thank you very much for your time here. Thank you for your tenure here, your leadership, your confidence, not just in this project, but as a whole. As people have projects here or ambitions, you've always been a champion of that. And your vision and really just your overall contributions. You were built, I don't know if this was a tagline. You were built for this time.
There was a tagline
for this place.
for a while.
But I believe that
was
you
there
were
before me.
But I believe that you were. I think that you were meant to be here. I think that you were meant to put us on this track, give us this runway.
Thank you.
And I think it was just a really special chapter in not only your story, but the story of this institution. And I think history will look back on you very admirably. I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve.
So
appreciate the time.
Looking for a place where your future comes alive? At HIU, we're more than a campus. We're a community of thinkers, doers, and change makers. Whether you're dreaming of creating impact locally or globally, our unique programs and supportive faculty are here to help you get there. To find out more and apply online, visit hartfordinternational.edu/academic programs to begin your HIU journey today.
Hey there, listeners. Do you want to show off your love for Hartford International University and support our amazing community? Well, you're in luck. Visit shophartfordinternational.com for a fantastic selection of apparel that includes t-shirts, hoodies, hats, gifts, and accessories that showcase your HIU pride. And here's the best part, because you're tuning into Dovetail, we've got an exclusive deal just for you. Use the code Dovetail at checkout to get 10% off your purchase. That's right, save a little cash while showing your support for HIU. So whether you're looking for that perfect hoodie, a gift for a friend, or just want to represent the university in style, head on over to shophartfordinternational.com. Don't forget to use code Dovetail for that special 10% off discount, and send us photos of you wearing your HIU gear out in the world to be featured on our social media and publications. As always, thanks for supporting Dovetail and Hartford International University.
Looking for a space that ignites your curiosity and powers your journey of discovery? Welcome to the library at HIU, located on the first floor of the main building. Our library isn't just a quiet place to study, it's your gateway to endless resources, expert support, and collaborative spaces. Whether you're diving into research, seeking new ideas, or simply need a peaceful place to recharge, we've got you covered. Discover the heart of campus learning at HIU. Ask for me, Carla Grafton, the library director, or Marie, our library assistant, for advice on how to begin your journey. Visit us today or explore online at hartfordinternational.edu/library, and follow us on our Instagram, library.hiu, and on our Facebook page, facebook.com/library Hartford International. See you at the library.